It began with a signature, barely 20 seconds on Capitol Hill. In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. It was meant to deter aggression. Instead, it unleashed a war that killed over 58,000 Americans and haunted a generation. Now history trembles again.
Something President Trump has been asking his military advisors about is whether or not bunker buster bombs could get the job done and penetrate deep enough to destroy certain hidden Iranian nuclear infrastructure.
It's a 30,000-pound bomb that actually travels so fast it shoots into the ground, buries itself into the ground, and results in a massive explosion. That could destroy that.
President Trump is reportedly considering using bunker-busting bombs on Iran's nuclear sites. Without consulting Congress, just one man, one order, and a war could begin. The lesson from Vietnam was written in blood, but the question today is even chilling. What happens if we've forgotten how to read it? In early June 2025, intelligence reports confirmed it. President Donald Trump had asked his military advisors about using the GBU-57, a 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb on Iran's underground nuclear facility in Fordo. This wasn't speculation. It was confirmed by multiple officials and reported by The Guardian and Reuters. The bomb in question, nicknamed the mother of all bombs, is designed to pierce hundreds of feet of reinforced concrete. Its only known purpose? To destroy facilities so deeply buried they are thought to be immune to conventional strikes. And yet, what's even more alarming isn't the weapon, it's the process. According to congressional sources, Trump had made these inquiries without notifying key committees or providing any briefing to Congress. No public debate, no democratic check, just silence. Then came the letter. 45 members of Congress, Democrats and some Republicans, formally demanded that Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio present a full strategic plan and seek congressional authorization before any military action. They invoked the War Powers Resolution of 1973. Because in America, war is not supposed to begin with a whisper. The request for bunker-busting bombs wasn't made in a vacuum. It came during a time of spiraling tensions in the Middle East. Iranian proxies had launched drone attacks, Israel responded with airstrikes, and U.S. forces were quietly repositioned into the Gulf. According to Politico, at least 3 U.S. aircraft carriers were redeployed in June toward the region, signaling preparations for escalation. But unlike previous wars, this one was brewing without a clear doctrine, no mission, no coalition, no timeline. The financial markets noticed. Oil futures spiked 12% overnight after reports of military repositioning. Defense contractors saw share prices soar. And for many Americans, déjà vu set in. Because this wasn't the first time a president moved toward a war under the cover of ambiguity. In 2002, President George W. Bush framed Iraq's WMD threat as a reason for preemptive action. The weapons were never found, but by then, over 4,400 Americans had died and $2 trillion had vanished into sand and smoke. Back then, some lawmakers admitted they had been misled or pressured into silence. Today, many fear a repeat. Only this time, the warning signs are louder. The resistance from within Congress is sharper. But will it be enough to stop a war launched by one signature? Across the Midwest, reminders of war rest in plain sight. In living rooms from Indiana to Ohio, folded American flags sit in wooden cases, symbols of sacrifice sealed in glass. Some were earned in Vietnam, others in Fallujah, but nearly all were delivered without a congressional vote. At Dover Air Force Base, these flags are handed to grieving families with precision and silence. A final salute, a folded triangle, a name engraved in bronze. They don't ask how the war started. They only know how it ended. For their sons, daughters, husbands. According to Pew Research, 67% of Americans now oppose any new U.S. military entanglement in the Middle East. Meanwhile, gas prices across Ohio and Michigan are creeping past $4.50 a gallon. Small trucking firms are cutting routes. A plastics manufacturer in Toledo just laid off 18 workers, citing petroleum volatility. All of it linked to rising tensions in the Strait of Hormuz. For everyday Americans, the battlefield isn't in Tehran. It's at the pump, in pink slips, in silent ceremonies with no audience. They don't brief presidents or authorize strikes. They just carried the burden, quietly and for life. Then came the turning point. On June 18, 2025, 45 members of Congress delivered a formal letter to the White House demanding that President Trump seek authorization before any strike on Iran. Their message was direct. No president, Republican or Democrat, can unilaterally drag the nation into another war. They cited the War Powers Resolution of 1973, a law passed after the Vietnam disaster, requiring presidents to consult Congress before deploying U.S. forces into hostilities. Yet critics fear the law is increasingly symbolic. Presidents have sidestepped it before, in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen, and now perhaps in Iran. Inside the Pentagon, sources told CNN that preparations for airstrikes remain on standby. Meanwhile, diplomatic channels are narrowing. Israel is pushing for U.S. backing. Tehran has vowed retaliation. And the president? He says, all options are still on the table. I'll decide 1 second before the deadline. That 1 second, one man's moment of decision could shape the fate of thousands. Without debate, without vote, without warning. For a country built on checks and balances, the silence from Congress may be the loudest alarm of all. To understand the danger, we have to rewind to a legal mechanism almost no one talks about anymore. It's called the War Powers Resolution of 1973. Passed in the wake of Vietnam, it was designed to limit any president's ability to wage war without congressional approval. It requires the White House to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying troops and to secure authorization within 60 days. But here's the problem. For decades, presidents from both parties have found ways around it. Barack Obama used it in Libya without a formal vote. Donald Trump launched strikes in Syria without consultation. And now Trump again may be preparing to use the GBU-57, an act of war, based only on executive authority. In 2020, when Congress passed a bipartisan resolution demanding Trump seek approval for strikes on Iran, he vetoed it. That precedent still stands, and while 45 lawmakers have spoken up in 2025, there's no guarantee they can stop him. Meanwhile, the defense industry is thriving. Raytheon stock has risen 18% in 3 weeks. Analysts quietly suggest new Middle East contracts are already in draft. The machinery of war moves fast, faster than Congress, faster than diplomacy, faster than democracy. What's being exposed isn't just a legal loophole. It's a system where one man can decide the course of nations. And all it takes is a phone call or a silence.
When Lyndon Johnson signed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution in 1964, he set in motion a war that lasted 20 years. When George W. Bush declared Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, it triggered a war that outlasted his presidency. Today, another decision may be days or seconds away. And once again, it may not be debated. It may not even be noticed until it's too late. The question is not whether America has the weapons, it's whether America still has the will to question who decides when to use them. Because if war can start with one man and 1 second, then democracy itself may be running out of time.